Instead of being an ankle biter like a dog, you were an arm biter.
Yes, I would bite my own arm.
You're listening to the Nacho Kids Podcast, where we discuss all things step-family related. Real stories, real people, real help. Your hosts are the creators of the Nacho Kids Method and the Nacho Kids Academy Step Family Coaching Team, Lori and David Sims.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. Oh, I'm everybody?
No, you're supposed to say, hey, everybody.
Oh, hey, everybody.
Guess what next week is?
St. Patrick's Day.
How did you know?
It's just a guess.
Did you know that St. Patrick's Day is a religious celebration?
I did. Therefore, Saint.
I never thought about it.
You thought it was just a drinking holiday, didn't you?
I thought it was just the Lucky Charms holiday.
The day you go out there and look for 4-leaf clovers.
4-leaf clovers?
34-leaf clovers.
That's what we're going to look for today is 34-leaf clovers.
Did you do that when you were a kid, though?
I still do it.
Like, I would spend hours in the yard looking for a 4-leaf clover in the clover patches in the yard. Of course, that's back before lawn care was a thing.
Jackson School has a bunch right there where you park to pick the kids up or take them in late, whatever.
You want to always get out there and look, don't you?
Well, I always look when I walk by and like one's going to jump out at me.
It might.
But usually if I find one, I find more in that same area.
I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. We should go do that.
We'll
be back, y'all. We're going to go find some 4-leaf clovers.
Some 34-leaf clovers.
Some 34-leaf clovers.
One thing I do like about this time of year, though, is you get the green ice cream and the green tea and coffee, and they just turn everything green.
Yeah, you can get a green milkshake from McDonald's if their ice cream machine's working.
Yeah, that never works.
And it might be green for reasons other than just St. Patrick's Day.
We can pull out all of our molded bread and get rid of it that day.
There you go.
I wonder where the green came from, though.
I don't know, but remember, was it Burger King that had like green hamburgers one time?
Maybe.
Or green buns?
I don't know. Don't they do green beer, too?
Yes, they do green beer. And why did St. Patrick's turn into a drinking day?
Everything ends up turning into a drinking day.
Oh. I don't know. I didn't know if there was a reason.
No. So what's the significance behind St. Patrick's Day? Why do we even have it?
I don't know.
I thought you was going to have an answer for me.
Well, let's see. Give me a minute. Wearing green. On St. Patrick's Day, it's customary to wear shamrocks, green clothing, and green accessories. St. Patrick is said to have used the shamrock, a 3-leaved plant, to explain the Holy Trinity to the pagan Irish.
There you go. So it's actually a holy holiday.
That's what I said, religious.
Well, sort of, kind of, yeah. Interesting. Well, through the magic of technology, you were able to look that up, and the listeners thought you just knew it right off the top of your head.
They could tell I was reading.
Because we edited out all the Googling that happened in between.
Well, I still don't understand, though.
All right, well, you can get into that while we listen to the interview.
Okay.
All right. So we have St. Patrick's Day.
Isn't it that if you don't wear green, you get pinched or pinched? Pinched.
I don't know where that comes from.
Well, you can Google that while we listen to the interview.
No, I'll just make sure you don't have green on.
But it's not 4-leaf clovers. So St. Patrick's Day has nothing to do with 4-leaf clovers.
No, it has. The 4-leaf clovers are good luck. It's probably just because there's not that many of them. It's an anomaly.
Like me.
Yeah, exactly like you.
Okay.
But let's don't forget Lucky and the rainbow charms. That's another thing. They tie all that together. Like, where did the leprechaun come in? And where's the rainbow and the gold at the end of the rainbow?
It sounds like you should have done your research before we started recording.
No, I didn't. These are questions I don't care about, but they come up.
You think they could hear you whisper? Okay.
They come up because you brought it up, but I don't really care about the marshmallow treats.
Okay, then.
Okay. Now, next.
In our ending today, we will tell you a little bit more about St. Patrick's Day.
Okay. That sounds exciting.
So our guest today is a Texas stepmom.
I wonder if they have clovers in Texas.
I'm sure they do.
Okay.
I bet they got some big old clovers because everything's bigger in Texas.
All right.
Remember that pretzel that I had when we were in Texas? That was a big old pretzel.
Mm-hmm.
So that was true. But our guest today is not only a Texas stepmom, she is a neurodivergent stepmom.
What does that mean?
She has autism.
Oh, okay.
she also has a child that is autistic. So she is a guest today to help us better understand autism and ways that stepparents can have a better understanding when it comes to their stepkids that are autistic, because we see a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another challenge, as if it's not challenging enough in a step family. And then you throw in the dynamics of autism, or, there's a lot of other things, but today we're talking about autism. That's, just another level of challenge. And there again, when it's your kid, you're a lot more able to deal with it and the challenges that are there. But when it's somebody else's kid, when it's your step kid, man, it's a lot harder to deal with.
Well, and I didn't realize this. Something I learned when talking to her is either her or her son, I think it's her, has ADD or ADHD and autism. I guess in my head, I'm thinking you couldn't have both, because I'm thinking autistic people are more reserved for the most part, and ADHD people are off the chain.
Like you.
Well, like my sister was when she was little.
You're not ADHD, you're just HD.
High definition.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah. When we were little, my sister, they didn't call it ADHD or ADD back then. It was hyperactivity.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mama had all of us tested.
Why does that not surprise me?
I know. So, of course, all of us had hyperactivity based off the test, but different degrees of it.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney's was more of a physical hyperactivity.
That's funny.
She would run around the backyard for hours.
What happened to her?
She got tired eventually.
Now she's got no activity.
That's right.
She went from hyperactive to no active.
She used it all up.
But she does do the workouts in the morning.
Well, yeah.
She don't listen, does she?
I hope not. Somebody's going to be like, let me find her sister and we're going to tell her about this. But you think about it, and now you got to remember, though, this was a long time ago. This was...
Oh, yeah. This is back in... How are you? It's back in the 30s,
We're not talking about
40s?
how old I am, but we'll just say that this was about 35 years ago when this happened.
This is before color TV.
Yeah. That's when you had the 13 stations and you had to click and...
You had 13?
Well, that's what it said on the numbers thing.
Dude, I had
We didn't
3.
really have 13. It was probably 3.
Yeah, I had 3 stations.
Yeah. And y'all remember the rabbit ear antenna where you'd turn it and it'd be...
Let me tell you, we had, as a kid, I had to climb up on top of the house and turn the antenna until we got to station, because the little power antenna thing, we didn't have that for a while.
What?
We didn't have all that money you had. Your daddy was a pharmacist. My dad worked in the mill.
That was dangerous.
I know. But you had to watch TV, and you could only get those channels if you turned the little antenna on the house. It wasn't like you just turned a channel and you got the station.
So y'all didn't have the rabbit ear thing. It's not even a rabbit ear thing. It was the box to turn the antenna
We
outside.
eventually got one, but not initially.
So your mom would just holler outside at you? That's good, David.
Yeah. Well, after a few times, you kind of know exactly where to turn it. So you'd be like, what station do you want? I'll climb up on top of the house.
Oh, my gosh.
We had like the ladder, the aluminum ladder that leaned up against the house was like a permanent stationary. Like it didn't.
A permanent stationary?
It was a permanent fixture.
Uh-huh.
We didn't move it for years until we had to, because people were always up and down on top of the house.
And think about how impatient we are now. Like, I hate live TV. I have to DVR everything. Could you imagine if to change the station, I had to get Jackson to go out there and turn the antenna? I would
can't even
rot.
get Jackson to turn the channel with the remote.
Now. Be nice.
Look, he will call you from his room. He will call you to come to his room to turn the TV off because he's laying in his bed.
That is not true.
True.
That is not true. He hasn't had a TV.
He will call
working
you.
TV in there for years.
He will call you to come down the hall to close his door because he doesn't want to stand up from his desk.
No.
It's 3 feet away and close the door.
No.
Liar.
Who are you calling a liar?
Who are you talking about? I didn't say nothing.
You did. You being bad.
All right. Anyway.
All right.
So that's our blast from the past.
Yeah, our blast from the past. But it's very interesting to talk to the stepmom from Texas. I struggled with remembering the neurodivergent.
Yeah. I thought that meant you had a split personality.
No. But that's apparently what they group autism and Asperger's and all that into now. Is neurodivergent.
Interesting.
And then there's neurotypical. So if you don't have autism or any of these other things, then you're neurotypical.
Okay. Are there anything else besides those two?
Oh, I'm sure, but those are the only two I remember right now. All right. So for all of you step parents that have stepkids that are neurodivergent, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know if this was helpful to you.
All right. You ready to get to listening?
Get to listening. And David's going to look up stuff on St. Patrick's Day. Yes, he is. Quit whispering. They can't hear you whisper.
They can hear me whisper.
They cannot hear you whisper.
You can't hear me whisper.
When I edit it out, it just looks like nothing. So okay.
All right. Well, here is a word about the academy, and then we'll get into some divergent stuff.
Neurodivergent, David.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
There is a way to save your sanity and your relationship, and it's called the Nacho Kids Academy. In the Nacho Kids Academy, you will learn the skills and knowledge to properly nacho, techniques to handle step-family challenges, ways to improve your communication, and much, much more. Visit NachoKidsAcademy.com and sign up today to join other step parents who are seeing the life-changing benefits of nachoing. Again, that's NachoKidsAcademy.com.
Today, we have the Texas stepmom. Hey, Texas stepmom, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your blend. How long have you been blending?
About 5 years. I am not married yet. We should be getting married in the spring, late winter, early spring of 2020. We met in 2014. I met his daughter when she was 7, and she's now 13. Blend has been going on and off, Let's see. I have a bio son who is 19. He does not have any contact with his bio father. So he lives with us full time, and we have stepdaughter half and half.
Okay. And so do y'all do with the stepdaughter complete 50-50, exchange one Monday and the next Monday kind of thing?
It's very even, but it's also somewhat fluid. Fiance and bio mom do kind of work together. If someone has to go out of town, it's pretty much, and she's allowed to come and go. If there's something, for some reason she wants to be here or at her mother's, that's fine. But at the same time, we kind of also have a boundary where, if there's something we're doing, then no, that's not fine.
Right. So you said things have kind of been on and off. Blending's kind of like a roller coaster, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. Yeah. And I'm definitely in a Nacho Supreme state of mind at the moment.
Well, what brought you to being in a Nacho Supreme state of mind? Just the stress of the blend?
It was because things were getting a little bit stressful with me and my fiance, and a lot of our conversations had to do with the stepdaughter. So, of course, I read the book Step Monster, and not only did I do that, I read a lot. I am an information junkie. I actually have a hard time putting books down or stopping myself from researching. Mm-hmm. One of my traits, but I tend to get focused on a subject, and I can get focused on a subject without necessarily having a personal meaning to it. Well, let me try to explain that better. So I was interested in the dynamics of our step family, and I started researching, not generally just to fix it, but just out of sheer curiosity about how these things work. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole, and I researched not just about step families, but about child development and adolescence and things like that, so that I would understand where everyone was coming from. And I just kind of pieced it together. And then I decided that stepping back would just be the best thing for me to do. And I also did it for my sanity. I just didn't like how I was feeling. Mm-hmm. And so I took my life back, and I said, I'm not going to get stressed about this anymore. There are so many more positive things I could be doing than letting a 13-year-old child get under my skin.
Yeah. And it's not easy to Nacho, but once you start doing it and continue to do it, it gets a lot easier because what you're doing is breaking a bad habit of being too involved.
Yes.
And I know with me, it was almost instantaneous that I felt relief. It was like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah. And I think the way that I started was to almost just get sort of self-absorbed and just make it all about me. I mean, not to the sense that anyone would have felt, ignored or that I was rebuffing them or anything like that. But I'm just going to go to the gym and have fun being at home mad. I'm working out.
Yeah, there you go.
And going to therapy too. I think what I did need to do at first so that I didn't slip back was physically not be in the same space. So that's why I was, going to the gym and just, doing things like that.
Right.
And even just being in the kitchen instead of elsewhere in the house and just focusing on my food and what I'm doing. So yeah, that definitely helped.
Yeah, one of the things that we teach in the Nacho Kids Academy is changing your focus because, what you focus on will grow. So if you're focused on everything that the stepkid's doing wrong, then you're never going to see anything else. Right.
Yes, exactly. After I changed that focus and was able to switch it quickly, which, I mean, of course, doesn't always happen. There are moments, but I can still just kind of try to regulate that emotion. And honestly, this is, kind of when I was learning about being autistic. So I was sort of having to do this anyway, learning to redirect my focus and, well, what I like to call it and what my therapist has said is finding the eye of the storm instead of being in the storm itself. You're not going to get out of the storm, but you can find the eye of the storm and find your calm. And that's where you try to aim to be all the time. And so I was learning that anyway. So yeah, that definitely kind of helped me adjust to some step family issues.
I like that. I like that phrase.
Yep. Definitely works for me.
So one reason that we have you as a guest is so we can talk about autism. And we know there are a lot of step families that the stepkids are autistic, or what's the word that I'm supposed to use?
Well, autistic is not a negative term. There are terms neurodiversity and neurotypical. The reason that many autistic people use neurodivergent or neurodiversity is because autism isn't necessarily a handicap. There are so many gifts that autistic people have that neurotypical people don't necessarily benefit from. So in a perfect world, we would be able to see all those differences and not consider it making special accommodations for someone, but see it more as, oh, you have a different brain that can bring something different to the table. So neurodiversity is used because, there are other people, like people with ADD, ADHD, and just other learning disabilities that are cognitive disabilities that can fall under being neurodivergent, that neurotypical people just don't quite get.
Well, and even autistic people, they are so different. They're not all the same. You can't say, okay, everybody that's autistic is quiet. That's not true.
Right. Absolutely not.
You can't say that everybody that is autistic will never be able to live on their own.
Right.
You can't group them like that.
That's one thing that is so misunderstood. The spectrum is incredibly misunderstood. People think of it as one long line, like here's low and here's high. Well, I think it should be more like maybe 10 different lines. And then this line might be at a 5 and the next line might be at a 4. And that's how you could map an autistic person. Their communication may be at level 1, but they may be understanding so much more than you can ever even know. So that's the problem with the spectrum. You have to understand that just because someone doesn't appear to have a trait that would be in the DSM-V, then that doesn't mean that you get to just assume, oh, you're not really autistic.
Right.
Someone that's very gregarious, people like, oh, you're too friendly, or you're too happy and talkative to be autistic. Well, you don't know what is going on inside their head. You don't know what it's like for them when they go to work every day, or maybe they can't even work because of some things, And I have also heard it described as how easily other people are able to be around you when it comes to low functioning and high functioning.
Okay.
And again, those are different areas. Each trait may be a little less easy to be around than others.
Mm-hmm. So let's say that there's a stepmom that comes into the picture, and
Mm-hmm.
the stepkid is on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and she wants to engage with the stepkid with something as simple as asking them to pick up their clothes.
Oh gosh, that's where a lot of behavioral therapy and just observing and seeing what happens, noticing. So that you have to also think of the goal. If you've asked the child to pick up their clothes, you want them to pick up their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So be very specific. One trait of autism that, and I know we've talked about people being, diverse even within the spectrum, but there are traits that are more likely to be there, such as understanding instructions, which is something that I struggle with a little bit, mostly in work situations. I need very specific instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine for a child, it might even be stressful. Pick up my clothes. Okay, then what? What do I do with them? What if I put them in the wrong place? Am I going to get in trouble? Maybe I should just avoid it altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened. That's what could possibly happen in an autistic child's brain. And they're not aware of that literal type of thinking. People assume that when they hear that autistic people take things very literally, that only means that they can't understand metaphors. And that's not how that works.
So if I'm a stepmom and I want to tell the kid to pick up their clothes,
Mm-hmm.
of course, we're presuming that the stepmom doesn't nacho, because if she nachoed, she would ask the dad to tell the kid to pick up the clothes.
Right.
Or ask dad to pick
Mm-hmm.
them up. So I just say I was going to the kid and I said,
Mm-hmm.
little Johnny, I need you to pick your clothes up and put them in the laundry basket in the bathroom.
See, that is a much better way to ask. Definitely. Because, then you've even eliminated a problem with communication. Communication is a huge part of being autistic. So that would be an excellent way to do it. And to keep things consistent. If that's how you explain it, make sure that laundry basket is always in the bathroom, because it could also be very confusing. Oh, the laundry basket was supposed to be in the bathroom. Now what? It could even be a different thing, like putting a different laundry basket in the bathroom could even be a trigger.
Because it confuses them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a neurotypical brain, those kind of things, it's difficult, I guess, to think of those things.
Right. Because to me, I'm thinking, if I tell my son to go put the clothes, pick his clothes up and go put them in the basket in the laundry room or in the bathroom, then if he goes in there and it's not in there, I expect him to go find the basket and put them in there and put it back in the bathroom or something,
Right.
Whereas a child that's on the spectrum may stand there and be like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Right.
And it may seem that they're being defiant. And what happens is while they're trying to figure out the laundry situation, there's so many other things going on. They may hate the way their clothes feel. They may have a sibling that's blasting some music. The TV could just be too loud. Even when a TV is quiet, sometimes I have issues being able to even focus on my own thoughts, depending on what type of show is playing.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're trying to filter all this sensory information and then try to make a decision about what to do with this laundry. And they can't even process the thoughts. So you can imagine that they're headed toward a meltdown.
And I would think that you also wouldn't want to tell them to do more than one thing at a time. So I wouldn't want to say, little Johnny, pick up your clothes, put them in the laundry basket in the bathroom, then go to your room, make your bed, and then I want you to come in here and do the dishes. Would that be overwhelming?
That would. It probably would be. Yeah. It's great to have visual aids instead of written words. So if you have a picture of a laundry basket, that can, if you want to give a sequence, of course this is, depending on an age, it's good to have pictures. I know that some people who are autistic tend to be very visual. I don't know about everyone, of course, but mostly in my experience, then visual aids have always helped. I meant to add that I was a special ed teacher, so an aide. I was a science teacher, but before that, I worked in special education as a teacher's aide, and even worked at a juvenile facility. So I have been around, quite a few autistic children, and I've seen how different they can really be.
Right.
And I'm just trying to call back information about methods I've used at work.
Mm-hmm. So you want to be direct, but you don't want to be harsh with your words, because am I right or wrong when I say that the majority of autistic people are more sensitive to tones? So for instance, if I say, pick up your clothes, that's going to be taken different if I say, hey, little Johnny, can you pick your clothes up for me and put them in the bathroom?
Not necessarily, because being able to read people can be a trait of autism. And it may not be being able to read people. It may be not knowing how to respond, even if you are reading someone correctly. And so what happens is over time, you're creating these negative experiences with people. So yes, if you use a certain tone of voice that you may think is completely nice, they could have a reaction to that. So it's not necessarily the tone, because that's sort of a neurotypical way of thinking. If I sound like what most people think is angry, then you'll respond negatively. But that's not a neurodivergent way of thinking. So even if you responded and you felt that you were being very nice and polite, then because of a negative experience, maybe that child responded the wrong way one time and just kind of logged that information, they could experience that negatively as well.
And two, as I said that, I was thinking, well, any child would really respond differently to someone saying, pick up your clothes versus, hey, if you don't mind, could you?
Right. Yeah.
Not even a child, an adult.
Yeah.
In a work environment, if your boss says, go do this report and I want it in 15 minutes versus, hey, I need you to please go do this report and get it back to me in 15 minutes. I mean, that's going to come across completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So when were you diagnosed as being autistic?
Let's see. Finally I remember my psychiatrist doing this. What was it? I'm sorry. I'm actually looking at my calendar.
You're fine.
I was listening. I actually heard this podcast from an actor who said that he even wrote his coming out date. So I was like, okay, so this was early August, but I have been kind of seeking help for quite some time. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 16. And of course, it made sense. Women and girls don't necessarily show the same types of traits for autism as boys and men. Girls and women tend to be able to socialize a little bit better, or, it's what you call masking. Okay. We can pretend. And, a good example is of how my work life has always gone. I'm able to kind of pose as normal or neurotypical. I like to use that word better than normal because, but it's like over time, it gets really exhausting to keep it up because you're always questioning, like, am I looking strange today, or do they suspect something? But and then it's like things just always start to kind of blow up, and it makes me even more stressed. And then I start screwing things up at work, and I get called lazy or uninterested or irresponsible, incapable, things like that. That has been my work experience at every single job I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so frustrating because I've tried to explain to people the kinds of help that I need, but it wasn't until I really started understanding autism and understanding myself better that I can look back and see how much I was masking, not asking any questions because I'm like, is that question strange? Or kind of guessing. I remember a boss telling me, I want you to come by for a quick meeting after work or after lunch. And I had no idea what that meant. And I remember stopping because, I'm starting to think of all the details and I don't want to forget anything, because he didn't give me any details. I didn't know what the meeting was for. And so I really started panicking and making just this huge deal. And I was starting to make lists of things that I might need so that I wouldn't forget. And I remember stopping by after lunch and saying, hey, do I need my laptop for the meeting? And he said, no, come on in. And I was not prepared to have that meeting. I actually just wanted a yes or no question answered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just a mess. He was asking me questions I wasn't prepared to answer, and I didn't know how. And I just looked like I was a mess. But if I had had 1 hour, if I had known exactly when I was going to have that meeting, it probably would have been fine. So, having to pretend that I know what's going on with people is just exhausting. And so, I'm sorry, I forgot your original question there. And when I was diagnosed. And
yes, that was my question. It's when you were diagnosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's when. And I am still not working. I've been trying to start my own business, but I'm having a hard time with social things. I've really taken some leaps and stepped out of my comfort zone quite a few times. So I'm really proud of that. But without really understanding what autism is and knowing what's going on with me, I don't know if I would be able to do that. That's why it's so important to understand if you have or are caring for a child or anyone with autism, really understanding what it is and how it shows and how it affects people later in life. One reason so many women are not diagnosed until they're older is because of the way it shows differently.
So what would you say that a stepmom coming into a situation where the stepkids are autistic or they may not even be diagnosed as autistic, but they just don't seem, quote, quote, we're going to use the word normal, to interaction with them. So, the stepmom may say, hey, would you like tea or juice for supper? And the kid just stands there and they don't respond.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a sign that something's not, quote, quote, normal, right?
Right. And, there are many ways that children respond to questions like that. Some autistic children will just repeat what you said, tea or juice.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would say keep a journal. I mean, I would definitely let your significant other knows about that. I wouldn't want to, be writing things about a stepchild without their bio parents' knowledge. But, and of course, never anything negative, just observations. So, one thing that was really helpful, to be honest, was my mother actually kept a behavior journal on me. And I never knew about that. But I read it and I was like, whoa, Even talking about things where I would line up my toys and didn't really play with them as most children would. I just like to line them up and put them in order or group them by color and things like that. So when a child responds oddly to a question, it's okay. I mean, depending on the question,
Right.
Just make a note of it, and mention their age and get input from teachers. The more information you can give a psychiatrist, the better.
Okay.
So information is everything. And, I don't think it's ever a good idea now I could be wrong about this. I don't have this experience, but I'm just thinking that, it would be a difficult situation if a step parent went to a bio parent and said, I think your child is autistic. I can see that, creating a whole lot of problems. And I'm sure you've heard stories like that.
Well, yeah, because nobody wants to think that something's wrong with their child. And not saying that something's wrong with children with autism. They're just different.
Right. Yeah. They're neurodivergent. Yes. But I can understand what a difficult situation that would be, especially if maybe you're someone who is in education and you see something in a child and you want to help. It's got to be terribly frustrating to not be able to speak up about it. But, I think you have to have a healthy relationship to be a healthy step parent. So focusing on your relationship is something that's probably going to help you talk to your significant other if there is ever a problem that you see that the child may need help with. But yes, just if you're not getting any kind of sense that the bio or your significant other, their bio parent is interested in looking into the situation further, then honestly, I'm not sure how I could help a step parent that way. But I can help with interpreting and knowing how to take care of yourself, when you are in that situation.
So in your opinion, with you being diagnosed as being on the spectrum, do you think expectations for neurotypical children should be the same expectations for neurodivergent children?
I think it depends on the expectation and what that person or child, adult, whoever has shown that they are good at, shown that what they can excel at and what they can't. I mean, there are many things that autistic people can do better than neurotypical people. Some of them may have extremely large vocabularies. So I think it really depends on what the expectation is. Now, in special education, we like to talk about fairness a certain way. So imagine you have 3 boxes in front of a gate, and you have some people that want to go watch a baseball game. Now, all these boxes are exactly the same height to try to make it fair for everyone. Well, the first person is kind of tall and gets on the box and looks over the fence, can see perfectly fine. Next person isn't quite as tall, so they try to look over the fence. They may still have to get on their tippy toes, but they can still kind of see over the fence a little bit. Well, the third person is really small, and even when they stand on the box and they're jumping up and down, they can't see anything. So if you give everyone the same thing and make everything fair, it's still not.
Right. And like you stated, and I like your analogy, is depending on their height, they're going to see different things. Yeah, the taller person is going to be able to see a broader view of things than the medium height person. And even though the medium height person may be able to see what you're wanting them to see, they're not seeing what's closer to the fence because they don't have that perspective.
Right. So I do think that there should be accommodations for people with differences. But I also think that even if a neurotypical person who's not diagnosed with anything is having difficulty, why not give them a taller box?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, because everybody's different.
Right.
You said something interesting about you were diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, whichever
Yes.
back in the day when you were 16. And then later on, you were diagnosed with being on the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, even before, in between there, at my last job, when I started having difficulties, I went to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I'm sorry. And I was just so tired of the cycle. And I finally started asking, I was like, what is going on with me? And this was maybe a couple of years ago. And at the time, we were talking about sensory processing disorder and, having ADHD, but then on top of that, also having sensory processing disorder, which it made sense. But, I just felt like there was still a little piece of the puzzle kind of missing. And I'll explain sensory processing disorder. There are so many types you can have motor sensory processing disorder. I can tell you that I run into walls a lot. I have bruises. I don't know where they come from. You can also have auditory processing disorder, which is something I deal with also. I have some noise sensitivity. And it can be not just necessarily loud noise, but certain noises, and they just make my skin crawl. I have a bit of tactile sensory disorder because, I have certain clothing I just cannot wear. I don't like anything too high on my neck. I can't layer my clothes, makes it a little bit difficult in winter, but I end up having to take a heavy coat with me, but I'll wear a tank top underneath it. And then I have to bring a cardigan or sweater so that I can take my coat off, put that somewhere, then put the right sweater on. But
right.
You can imagine getting ready to go somewhere in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I have to have my wardrobe with me. I have to have a change of shoes just in case my socks get wet. I need to bring a change of socks. And I usually have, kind of a pile of clothes in the trunk of my car.
I think everybody should have a change of clothes in the car because you never know what's going to happen.
That's true. That's true. But, it's just another thing that a neurodivergent person would think of more likely than a neurotypical person. Most people I know get dressed and they leave the house. That's it.
Right. There's not that much thought process into it.
No, it's exhausting though. But yeah, so more about sensory processing. And, it can be visual, just basically all of your senses, but, including motor motor processing.
I like motory myself.
Motory? Yeah, with my auditory, it's like I said, it's not just loud noises, but I kind of feel them physically. And it's like... Sometimes it causes like that adrenaline rush, like when you've been in a near fender bender and you're like, whew.
Yeah.
When I hear a noise, especially if I'm not expecting it, that's how much it affects me, where I'll feel a little shaky, like I've had an adrenaline rush. But my brain also cancels out noise, or there are times when I can't cancel anything out at all. So that's probably the auditory is probably the one that gives me the most trouble. You can imagine when I was a teacher and I had to be in the lunchroom, I wanted to cry. I pretty much just hid under my desk during a pep rally. I'm like, please don't make me do it. And I felt really bad. I wanted to be supportive, but there's just no, I couldn't do it. And yeah, so that's why I started, seeking out some help on what is going on. And even socially, I just felt like, why can I not mix with the group? I just can't connect, or it seems like I'm not doing, what everyone else is doing. And I don't know why it looks so easy for them.
Right.
So, I kind of understood that. And I had talked with my boss and everything and explained what was going on with me. But like I said, it wasn't quite the whole picture, because it wasn't necessarily taking care of the social part of things that was difficult for me.
Now, help me understand the motory part of it.
The motory?
Yeah,
the
I
motor.
said it too, didn't I? I said motory.
Yes. Yes. Now this one I haven't had, like I said, I am a little bit clumsy. It's basically not always easy for me to find my space, like physical space in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I break things easily. I just, it's like my brain doesn't necessarily judge correctly how hard I'm closing a door or, how close I am to a wall.
So it's not visual as far as like your depth perception that's causing these issues.
Not necessarily. It's like, I think it's probably all of it together. Like I can't give you like a scientific understanding of it more than experience of it, but I don't really, I haven't heard a lot of other people talk about experience with it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because children tend to kind of be clumsy, and so we don't really separate that as an autistic trait.
Right.
But it can be. And I honestly think that if I had not been in dance and gymnastics as a kid, that I would probably have some issues right now. It's probably a really good thing. Some therapy for autistic children is to do fine motor tasks while balancing on a board. And you can even order these boards online. It's like they have a ball and then they have like a little platform around the ball, and the child will stand on it and try to balance and then play a video game, do some kind of motor skill.
Is it kind of like those exercise things that you see that the ball's cut in half, one side's a platform and one side's a ball? Okay.
Exactly.
Girl, I probably couldn't do that.
I know, but I think you can assist the child. So, but it's really important for them to get to be able to just connect their body to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. When I was doing some therapy for auditory processing disorder, my therapist had me listen to a CD on headphones of classical music, but it would sort of sound like, let's say you had a 4-string quartet playing, but then all of a sudden it sounds like the cello is in another room with the door closed. So like some of the sounds would kind of go in and out, and it helps to train the brain to process those things quickly, to just to understand, what's going on. And at the same time, I would do a breathing exercises and watch a animation of a ball going up and down and try to focus my breathing at the same time. And it was very helpful. I think that's something that you need to do continuously, which unfortunately I'm not able to do at the moment. But there are so many different types of therapy, and you can even do these at home. I would definitely recommend getting a behavioral therapist or an occupational therapist, both, and having them come over and show you how to work with a child. Mm-hmm. There are just many things you can do.
Right. Now, what's your biggest struggle? Do you think you have a harder time being a step parent because of you being on the spectrum? Because you don't understand maybe the cues that the stepdaughter is putting off? You don't understand them like someone that's not on the spectrum would? Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because of my experience as an autistic person, having been her age before, and absolutely not being able to relate because I was such a different person than she is. And, it just kind of is strange to me. It's even hard for me to communicate to you because it's something I feel like I understand what's not connecting, but it's hard for me to explain that in words. And it's not just that we have different personalities. It's just such a different way of thinking about things. And I'm like, I would never do that. And I probably, because, I wasn't that fond of teenagers, even when I was one. I always liked adults much better than people my age. I don't think I spent a whole lot of time with people my age, or at least I tried to avoid it as much as possible. I liked my teachers. I loved my teachers. I really liked learning. So I would skip the lunchroom to go hang out in the library. I was definitely nerdy. I mean, I did some social things, but, you know, they always kind of worked out like they did it at my future job. It's like the masking. And I think people thought that I was a little strange and just didn't want to do the same things they wanted to do. And so, you know, I had a hard time having friends. So when I'm hearing about troubles with friendships or something not from the stepdaughter, but, you know, things like that with young people, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why don't you just do this? And, you know, I don't say that because I'm, you know, Nacho.
Right.
But, yeah, I just have a hard time relating. One thing my therapist told me to think of is behavior as a teenager. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, then again, I'm like, okay, research time. So I'm learning what's typical and what's not. And that helps me take things a lot less personally or feel confused or like I have a better solution. You know, that's one of my traits for sure. Is, you know, there are those people who like, oh, I know how to fix that. Just do this. Like advice givers, those kind of people. Well, by the time I say something, I've probably typically written a 3-page report on it. And like, hey, like that's something I would actually do. Like, so I've been researching this thing that happened last month for the entire month. And I wrote a 3-page, you know, summary and some possible solutions here. Oh, yeah. Fiance calls me Dig Dug. I don't know if you've seen that video game where this guy digs tunnels, and that's all he does, just digs tunnels. That's pretty accurate. That's what I do. Yeah. I am in constant information seeking mode. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we disconnect, is that I just don't understand from her experience. I mean, I have a human experience, and my parents were divorced. They weren't divorced till I was about 19, I think, though. And their divorce never even bothered me. I just I didn't take it personally. I just didn't really care. And so that's another thing that I guess I just don't quite understand. Yeah, but I mean, I do understand it. I can sympathize, but it's definitely not my experience.
Right. Now, what are 3 things that you feel step parents should know about stepkids that are autistic?
I think understanding that they are not like other autistic children. They are individuals. Even within the same family, if you have 2 autistic children, they could be completely different. Let's see. The next thing, what may logically make sense to you may not work. I think just learning as much as you can about that child and trying as much as you can to think like a neurodivergent person. However you can do that best. Just sort of planning ahead. One thing also is understanding meltdowns.
Okay, let's talk about meltdowns.
When an autistic person has a meltdown, and of course it can look different ways. Sometimes children will just go silent. Some will just collapse on the floor at the grocery store and start screaming. Some will even self-injure. And it's a way, and it can be very scary to see. I used to bite my arm when I was little, and my parents couldn't figure that one out.
Instead of being an ankle biter like a dog, you were an arm biter.
Yes, I would bite my own arm. And I was so overwhelmed. I was having a meltdown, and it was the only way. I don't know why I connected to my body that way, but that's what is going on. So understanding what a meltdown is versus a tantrum is really important. If a kid is crying because they can't have a toy, if you give them that toy, they're probably going to stop crying. But if an autistic children has asked for a toy and then starts crying and cannot find that center again, it's because they're having a meltdown. It's not because of the toy. That was just the last straw. And, you know, there's just a difference.
Right.
So punishing for meltdowns, you know, it's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm. How would you suggest that the meltdowns be handled?
You know, I think that's probably one of the most difficult parts of being a parent with autistic children, because you just kind of have to ride it out and keep them safe. Mm-hmm. There's not much else you can do. I mean, definitely learn strategies. You know, you can ask a therapist about calming strategies. You know, teachers would even be good people to ask because they've been through that training. Mm-hmm. You know, emergency talking to, I cannot remember the exact phrase, but, you know, like kind of like damage control. And
right.
There are certain things you do. You do watch your tone of voice. Don't say what's wrong with you.
Okay.
Tell them they're okay. Say you're okay.
And I think I know the answer to this, but why would you not say what's wrong with you?
Because they're already trying to process so much, and there can be lots of shame with not being able to really process your own feelings, and that pressure to like, oh, they need an answer right now, but I can't even handle my own self right now. It's just not a great thing to ask, you know, for anybody, to be honest. When someone's having a breakdown, it's not the time to get them to analyze their emotions. And it's best to just get them to a calm place. So just tell them you are okay, you're safe, I'm here. I mean, I think you'd be okay depending on the age. Say, what do you need? Mm-hmm. You know, make sure that you have a plan. If you're at the grocery store and you've got a little bitty baby and then you have a 6-year-old that's autistic having a meltdown, you need to have a plan and, you know, someone that's going to be available. You know, ask for help. Mm-hmm. So whatever that plan is, like, you know, have a text code like that may say ASD exclamation mark. I'm sorry, I can't talk. Exclamation mark. That means autistic spectrum disorder exclamation. This is an emergency. Call me now.
Right.
So just having that plan. So, but sometimes you may just need to sit there in the middle of the store and just keep them safe and ignore people when they stare at you with terrible looks. Right.
Because they don't know.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell people also, you know, there may be people that want to be helpful. Another thing that's a good idea to do is, of course, this is also age dependent. You can have a card for the child to carry that says, I am autistic when I have a meltdown, or you know, you can word it differently. If this happens, this is what I need. You can order these online. And, you know, then the child, all that child has to do is give that card to someone that they trust.
They do have bracelets and stuff for that too, right?
I've never seen bracelets. That's more for medical, like, you know, conditions, like diabetes or something. But, you know, the card actually tells people what to do and how to help them and who to call. So, you know, I think that's a really good idea.
You know what? Maybe it was a seatbelt cover.
Yes, there have been seatbelt covers in case there's an accident.
Right.
Then the responders know exactly what to do. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's genius.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that should just be so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't I think of that?
Well, you and I talked about something else that I want to touch on before we end our podcast here, and that was benevolent sexism.
Yes. And the reason I talk about this is this has been one of my rabbit holes that I've gone down quite a bit. When I was in college, I took classes in women's studies. I have a degree in psychology, and so I took women's studies and some child development things. And I'm always asking questions, and especially in women's studies. And at the same time, I was taking a course called Sex, Religion, and Prehistory, which is basically how sexism began. And it is a fascinating story. If you'll read a book from Dr. Robert McIlvaine called Eve's Seed, it's a very fascinating look. at all of those things. But so I started understanding, it's obvious what sexism is. If a woman's not paid as much as a man and she can do the same work, that is sexism. But sexism is held up and supported by benevolent sexism. Those are the things that seem kind of nice and can be intentional or unintentional, typically unintentional. Things like if you're writing a bio about a woman that's new to a workplace, it could possibly not sound the same as a man. It could talk about how cheery and bubbly and sweet she is, and she's just the friendliest person. And, when you read one about a man, it might say, a list of what he's been successful in. And, it's hard to think of those things because, you just wrote a nice paragraph about the woman. That's all. Mm-hmm. But it is playing into the idea that women are a certain stereotype, which is why I feel that nachoing can be difficult for some stepmothers. If she's with a partner who sort of has these benevolent sexist ideas that women are just natural nurturers, that we're supposed to be the ideal mother, I can understand how this man might think. And, some women hold up these ideas too, because, lots of people don't study sexism. Mm-hmm. I study everything. So but to really understand where sexism comes from is so important, I think, in rearing children and especially stepchildren, because you need to understand the relationship you have with your partner. And if you take on the role of stepmother, you've got to figure out what kind of role you want. Mm-hmm. But you're also having to live up to the expectations of what your partner wants you to be. So I can understand how that benevolent sexism can, play a part in that. And I think when people understand what it is and how it harms, then maybe we can start having conversations about that. Don't think of me as a nurturer. What if I'm better at paying the bills? Mm-hmm. So what if I'm not a great cook? Maybe I'm better at doing something else. A woman could be better at patching the roof. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
And, I remember being late to work because I had a flat tire and I changed my own tire. And I guess a coworker saw me, didn't stop, but which is fine. I'd rather not stop because I can change my own tire. Mm-hmm. And when I got to work, they said, "Girl, I cannot believe you were changing your own tire." She's like, I'm like, why is that shocking? And just the idea that I wouldn't be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I drive I have a Jeep, so it's like, it's not little teeny tires. I'm like hurling that thing in the trunk and like, off we go, done. And I enjoy doing stuff like that. I'm the one who mows the lawn. I like physical work.
Mm-hmm. What about your significant other?
He's awesome. He will help clean. Now, he's a feminist, and I'm so happy that he's a feminist. He's so supportive, and I think that's why our nacho relationship, one of the reasons our relationship was more successful after nachoing, mm-hmm. Because he doesn't expect me to be anything other than who I am. And we're a pretty gender neutral house. So he doesn't expect anyone to do the job of a man or do the job of a woman. That doesn't even have meaning in this house.
Right.
While I'm out there mowing the lawn, he may be doing the laundry. So, mm-hmm. And then it's reversed. So yeah, we're pretty gender neutral. There's no expectation for that. There's no expectation that I cook dinner, but I actually love to cook. So I'm like, get out of my kitchen. I'm doing this. So yeah, we're just very neutral that way. And so I think there's much more support without saying, what kind of woman are you? What kind of mom are you? How can you not be a mom? I'm like, well, like this.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out basically what everybody's wanting from a stepmom. And that's one thing that we try to tell people before you get married or, you know, move in together, talk with your significant other and say, hey, what do you see my role in this blend as being? Because if they say, I want you to play mommy, then you can go, oh, hang on. I don't think that's a good idea.
Or you can say, okay, well, what does that look like to you?
Right. And that's a better way to put it is, okay, well, what does me playing mommy look like to you? Does that mean that if little Johnny talks back to me, I can put him in timeout? Or does that solely mean that you expect me to feed them, bathe them, make sure their homework's done, but refrain from the disciplinary part?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need clear understandings of what each other's expectations are.
Right. And, you know, I think depending on the child, I don't even think it would be so bad for a bio parent to say, well, okay, what are your expectations of what a step parent is? I don't know if that would work out well. It may be for them to disappear. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
It depends on the child and the situation and their age. But, you know, I don't think we just don't ask each other details. That is one. And I think part of my neurodivergent brain benefits is that I see missing details all the time. I've had to learn to not say it because it comes across as really know-it-all, kind of bossy. And from my perspective, I'm doing it out of fascination. Like, oh my gosh, I learned this. I really want to share it, you know, and that's where I'm coming from. But, you know, when I start spouting off, well, here's why this is going wrong, blah, 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 blah. Here's how you can fix it. It sounds really controlling and a little bit crazy sometimes. So I've learned to just kind of be okay with, you know, everyone else not focusing quite as much on details.
Right.
But, you know, that is one of the things that benefits me as far as the way that I go about my life is that I see things that are getting missed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense.
And just my own need for clarification. I think I'm more likely to be that way with other people. You know, what I've talked to my fiance about how to talk to my son, and not being like, you better talk to him this way or anything like that. But, you know, and they actually get along really, really well. So I'm glad about that. But, you know, fiance he's the kind of person that would, you know, knock on the door, garbage needs to go out. And when I ask him to do that, I do it so much differently. I'm like, hey, son, I need you to get the garbage out, pull the bin, and don't forget to replace the bag. That's just how I talk to people. I just give more detail. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where I can come across as harsh sometimes. You know, at work, I'd be like, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that. And it's not intentional. It's just I don't have the habit of sugarcoating things, I guess, or, you know, saying, hey, can you please do this? So, I mean, I can come across as bossy. I know I can. And I don't mean it that way at all.
Yeah. And one thing I need to be careful about is understanding that every once in a while I'm actually wrong. So, yeah, I do tend to get so wrapped up in information that, you know, I'm like, I know I sound a bit like a contradiction when I say this, but trust me, that's another part of autism. That, you know, when I'm looking for details so intensely, there's a few that I can miss, you know, and it might be that little one that could actually make me understand the whole picture. But I just get, you know, I get so intensely focused and interested in something, and I'm going to try to find every piece of information about it. I even have just the hardest time tearing myself away. I think it's definitely helped our family situation, as far as my relationship with my fiance. But I had to just kind of let it go when it came to getting along with the stepdaughter, because just because you have information doesn't mean that you can make everyone use it.
Right.
And that's something I didn't think about.
You said something about sounding contradictory in your statements and that being part of your autism. You want to explain that a little bit more?
Sure. It's just that the way that I think and the way that I may present myself or act may be a little bit different sometimes. I have a very complicated inner world. I'm always thinking a lot. And so I can be a certain way for a while. It's not that I'm changing myself, but if I've learned new information, I try to adapt it. So sometimes, I change my mind, and then I can seem a little, or I've learned a new detail, or I've learned a new piece of information. Like just when we were talking about that, I was like, I just said that I'm very detail oriented, but I was thinking the whole time we were talking, or that I was talking about that. And then I realized, I was like, sometimes there's details that I miss. So it may seem like I'm a little contradictory sometimes, but it's more that I'm evolving. So, and I see myself do that sometimes.
Well, is it that you're evolving, or maybe you just have the ability to see things differently?
I think both.
Like maybe you can see both sides of the situation where a lot of people can't.
I usually see 10 sides.
Yeah.
And so that's, when people say that autistic people are not empathetic or, can't pick things up easily, I understand that. And that is true. However, you're usually making an observation. You can't hear people's thoughts. So, oh goodness, my brain. Come on, brain, stick with it. See, it's going to 10 different directions right now. Sometimes I can't pull the right information out because there's so much of it. Let's see. Like if someone asks me a question, I typically take a little bit longer to process, because sometimes I've already thought of, 10 different solutions for whatever this question is. And at the same time, I'm having to judge what they meant by it. But that's why my brain does that, because I haven't decided on what this person wants from me. And so my brain just starts thinking of all these different things. And then not only do I have to assess what this person wants, but then I have to pull out the right answer. And that can be very tiring.
Yes, I'm sure.
So, I think that's one reason that people talk about autistic people being shut off sometimes, or, non-communicative and things like that. So it's just that there's such a busy inner world going on. It's hard to connect the right one with the rest of the world.
Right. Well, I know blending is hard on a good day with, what's that word again? Neurotypical. There we go. With neurotypical stepkids, I can only imagine how much more difficult it is with neurodivergent. Look at there, me using big words. Kids. But that's one thing I was going to ask you before we got off here. I guess I didn't realize that autistic children could also have ADD.
Yes, that's so.
No, I don't know why I didn't realize that, or why I would think they couldn't.
Most autistic people have ADD and SPD. I mean, that's pretty much a given. That is part of autism. However, you can have ADD or SPD without being autistic.
Okay.
So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does.
Okay, good.
I guess maybe you think of autistic children as being more reserved, and you think of more ADD or ADHD children as being more hyper.
Even that's something I don't think people understand. People with ADHD can even hyper focus and just kind of be in their own little world, be quiet, which is, how mine usually represents. I'm typically not hyper. I'm when I'm feeling a little more hyperactive, it's more that I just really need a lot of physical activity during the day. I cannot do a desk job. I would go insane. I mean, I haven't sat down once while we're talking. I'm always moving. And that's just how my, I guess, hyperactivity presents itself. And ADHD doesn't always look like someone running around in circles at the playground. That's not how it always looks.
Right.
It can even be like a behavioral hyperactivity and not necessarily a physical, like verbally talking really fast or something like that.
Right. Well, the Texas Stepmom, we really appreciate you being a guest on our podcast. Like I said, we've got a lot of step parents that are trying to navigate the blend with stepkids that are on the spectrum. And I know that them hearing this will help them realize things that they can do a little differently to better interact with the stepkids.
Right. I hope so too.
Well, thank you again. And I'm sure that we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Well, I don't know about you, but I learned a lot about neurodivergent. And we know some people that are neurodivergent, but this helped me understand a little bit more. We'll tell you a quick story about a friend of my son's that spent the night with us a couple of times.
Oh, here we go. I'll throw David under the bus.
And his mom was having some health issues, so he stayed with us. And so one night, David tells the little boy to go get in the shower. And the little boy's like, no, I only take showers on Wednesdays. And David's like, what? And he's like, I only take showers on Wednesdays. And David's like, no, that's not true. And told him to go get in the shower.
I don't know that I said it wasn't true. I think I said more like, I don't really care. Take one anyway.
Yeah, I think that is what you said. So I don't recall if the kid came out with wet hair or anything. He may have just ran the shower and made us think he was taking a shower. But after I talked to his mom, I said, yeah, he told us that he only took showers on Wednesday. And she said, yeah, he's got sensory issues to water. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are horrible people. But she didn't tell us any of that.
I know. Don't put your kid in the care of somebody else if they got special things they should know about them.
Well, you can put them in the care of somebody else. Just tell them.
That's what I just said.
No, you said don't put them in the care.
Okay.
Don't make me go back and listen again. But anyway, so that was kind of funny. And I was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, it's okay.
Yeah, she wasn't very bent out of shape about it.
And I will tell you that she has more expectations and puts more responsibility on this child than most parents of neurotypical kids. She expects a lot out of him. She wants to make sure that he can live on his own when she's no longer around and that he can take care of himself.
Yep.
But he's an awesome kid, and we're very glad to know him.
He's funny too.
He is funny. He is hilarious.
But I think the funny part about it is he's not trying to be funny, which makes it funnier.
Right. I remember riding down the road that day, and he said, if it wasn't for Carolina Christian Academy, I'd be in juvenile jail. Yep. He's a funny kid. We enjoy him. All right. A little bit more on St. Patrick's Day.
All right. Go.
The tradition is if you don't wear green, you get pinched.
Pinched.
Or as we say in South Carolina, pinched.
All right.
The tradition is tied to folklore that says wearing green makes you invisible to leprechauns, which like to pinch anyone they can see. Some people also think sporting the color will bring good luck, and others wear it to honor their Irish ancestry.
Okay.
So that's where the leprechaun comes in.
So if you're running around pinching people, then you're acting like a leprechaun.
Yeah, but it makes me think leprechauns are mean.
They are mean. You didn't see the movie?
No.
Oh, you should see it.
No.
They're like little trolls under the bridge.
Well, I just Googled it, of course. And Wikipedia,
Yeah, they're always correct.
Mm-hmm. Says, according to David Russell McNally, the leprechaun is the son of an evil spirit and degenerate fairy, and is not wholly good nor wholly evil. So he's mixed.
Sound like your son.
David. So what's the leprechaun's purpose?
To run around and pinch people.
Why?
Because they're not wearing green. So he's promoting the green, the wearing of the green.
He's promoting the wearing of the green?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's just an evil little thing running around causing problems. Like I said, he's like your son.
Well, according to Wikipedia,
Oh, here we go.
they are usually depicted as little bearded men wearing a coat and a hat who partake in mischief. They are solitary creatures who spend their time making and mending shoes and have a hidden pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If captured by a human, they often grant 3 wishes in exchange for their freedom. So they're little cobblers, like elves.
Maybe, I wonder if so instead of baking cookies, they fix shoes. How about that?
Who makes cookies?
The Keebler elves.
Oh, I was thinking of Santa's elves.
No, they make toys.
Yeah, but they might make shoes too.
No, leprechauns make shoes.
Oh,
So the
okay.
next time you go and buy those boots on sale that you got, you know,
Yeah, my boots.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
thank the leprechauns.
Well, guess what, David?
Please don't tell me you got another pair.
No, I didn't. Not yet. I need to go check their sales. But look, what do you think a leprechaun's weakness is?
Well, it can't be gold. I don't know. Beer.
A 4-leaf clover.
Oh, now it all makes sense.
How ironic.
So that's why you have to pick a 4-leaf clover so you don't get pinched by the leprechauns.
Right.
But wait a minute. If you catch a leprechaun, you can get 3 wishes. So if you don't wear green, that means a leprechaun
Can see you.
can see you, then come try to pinch you, and then you can try to capture it.
Yeah.
So then you would not wear green, right?
Right.
And not have a 4-leaf clover.
But you'd get pinched and get 3 wishes.
So that you can try to capture the leprechaun who's going to give you the wishes. And apparently they have money at the end of a rainbow, which, have you ever tried to get to the end of a rainbow?
Yeah,
You have.
I have.
Please tell me you have.
I have. It don't work. It disappears.
Let me guess. You're the girl in the yard with a water hose squirting a mist up in the air so you can produce your own rainbow so that you can then try to find the end of it.
No, I would see them driving down the road and I'd try to find it.
And then you would drive around for hours trying to find it.
Yep. Exactly. Hey, I had a lot of fun that way. Why are you laughing at me?
Oh, gosh. And she's not even blonde.
Nope, I'm not.
Wow. That's hilarious.
Yep.
I can't even say anything else. You just have to close here.
Well, one more fact. A lot of people equate leprechauns to elves, like I just did.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, the leprechaun is not an elf.
It's an imp.
They are fairies.
I thought fairies had wings.
Not all fairies have wings.
Guess not. Well, yeah. I guess it depends on what kind of fairies you're talking about.
All right, well, let's look. Do all fairies have wings?
Oh my gosh. We are going down a rabbit hole.
It says, actually, fairies don't have wings at all. I got one more fun fact.
All right.
St. Patrick was not from Ireland.
Where was he from then?
Roman Britain.
Roman Britain.
That's what it says.
Huh.
He was kidnapped and taken to Ireland.
How about that?
And that is where St. Patrick is really from. So don't wear green, get pinched, get you a little leprechaun, and get you 3 wishes. And let us know how that works out for you.
How about that?
All
Learn
right.
something new every day.
Yep.
All right, folks, join us again next week as we have another show and talk about who knows what, including stepfamily stuff.
Yeah, because we're coming up on April Fool's Day soon.
Oh, I like April Fool's Day.
Uh-oh. Maybe we won't talk about that. All right. Have fun. And if you drink green beer this week, be careful.
Yeah.
Get a designated driver.
Anything you eat or drink that's green, you might want to be careful.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Hasta la pasta.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nacho Kids Podcast. Find us online at nachokids.com. Until next time, remember, life is good when you nacho.